All right, today I want to teach you guys about mixing your range of values uh, in your painting. So, okay, first I'm just going to show you a couple things. So this is the painting, I haven't finished it, but this is what I painted last semester. And this is what I painted in my demo for you guys. So I'm going to paint on this one. But I'm going to show you how I made the shadows and the highlights on the different fabrics and show you how to do that here. Okay, I'm gonna put that down there. Okay, so for the first thing you need to do is figure out the hue of your color. And the mid-tone. So the hue would be like here, which color on the color wheel. So I'm gonna do first this blue. So it's blue, but it's a little bit green, so it's a blue-green. My blue-green is pretty green right here. So it'd be in between these two. It also has white added to it because it's even in the mid areas that aren't highlighted, it's not as dark as these. So figure that out. Now, when you add, I'm going to turn a light on because the sun went away. When you make the shadow, you need to know what the highlight is. What the complementary is. So for me, when I'm doing this one, the complementary is red-orange. Right? Blue is orange, blue-green is red-orange. So kind of in between this area, a reddish-orange. That is going to help us make the shadow. So what we're going to do here is, for the color you're working with, I want you to make 3 values. When you make the 3 values, they're not as easy as like making the mid-tone, then adding white, making the mid-tone, adding the complementary or black. Don't add black at all, but you're not even going to just add the complementary. So what you're going to do is, my light is yellow. So most of you probably have a yellow light, and it makes it a little bit easier because blue is a darker color. So with a yellow light, so you're going to add, your highlights are going to be a little bit more yellow and your shadows are going to be more blue. If your light is a blue light, then your shadows are going to be a little bit blue and your highlights are going to be a little bit more golden, like they probably have some browns in them. Okay, so I'm going to first make my mid-tone. So let's see here. This phthalo with some white. So I'm gonna check. I have my my photo up here on my computer, and you guys can't see it, but I will post the photo too. So I'm gonna check. Is this fit kind of the mid area? It looks pretty good, but it's a little bit too rich. So like not rich, but too saturated. I'm gonna add a tad bit of yellow. Ooh, too much yellow. So that happens. So add a little bit more blue, then add a little bit more white, because now it's too, that's perfect. Okay, so now I'm gonna add just a tad bit, just a little tiny bit of this cadmium red, which is very orangish. And a tad bit of yellow, tiny bit more yellow to make, and that's the complementary, right? Red, orange. So adding a little more red and a little bit of red and a little bit of, okay, so we have a perfect value there. Now that I know how to mix this, it is really helpful if I would mix a lot of it, so that I have something to work from. So we're gonna do that. We're going to mix a big chunk of it because I'm gonna work from it to make the shadows, and so I'm leaving a little bit that I figured out how to make it. Now I have to reproduce it. You can do this at first. You can make a whole bunch at first. Okay, a little bit of yellow. Just gonna mix till we get this value, the color right there. Okay, it's too light, so more blue. I want to get rid of my paint on my brush. You can also use a palette knife like this. I like using my brush, but it's actually not very good for your brush. Okay, so almost there. It needs a little bit more yellow. Okay. It's good, and then add a little bit, tiny bit of red like I did before. Tiny more yellow like I did before. And it's pretty good. It's a little bit lighter, but that's all right. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is make my highlight. So I'm gonna scoop some of this up and add a ton more white. Because this is gonna be like the almost brightest. There we go. Now that is actually, because the light is yellow hitting it, so that is way too blue. So I'm also going to add some yellow because the highlight is actually a little more green. So you're almost always going to add yellow to your highlight if you have a yellow light. So that would be the sun. Most lamps are yellow. You might have used a blue light, then you're going to add a little blue to your highlight. Okay. So there's a nice highlight. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of, this is why you need a lot of the mid-tone, because I'm already running low. Now I'm going to make the mid-tone, take the mid-tone to make the shadow. So shadow is the complementary, so that is a red-orange. So I'm going to take this, ooh, too much, and then a little bit of yellow. Okay, so it's a weird, it's too much yellow. Red, I'm making this weird color. Okay, and then we got that, and I want a little bit more blue. So remember, shadows are a little bit blue. Okay, so I actually have a really good shadow there. Okay, so now if you weren't working with blue, you wouldn't have been adding so much blue back in, and you probably would have added a little less complementary. But for this, we have highlight, mid-tone, shadow. So now see, you start with the mid-tone. You're not just adding white. You're probably adding a little yellow too. And this, you're not just adding complementary or just adding blue. You're probably adding both. To make it even more complicated, the objects around each other reflect light. And that changes both the shadow and the highlights. Now for this so we're on the third layer here. I wouldn't worry too much about that, but when you get into the fourth layer, you want to add some of that reflected light. And you can do it now too, but it's a lot to take in. Okay, also you add a little, you can have medium on the side to help you blend instead of just water. Okay, so now I'm going to start marking stuff. So, ooh, now that I put it on, it feels almost too rich, but it's okay. So I'm adding medium so it's not super thick. I can add a little water. So I'm kind of marking in around the shadows. And again, this is okay to be messy at this level. So I'm gonna just do like this. We're not looking to finish your painting at this moment. We're just getting those colors. We already know where the shadows are. If your some of your guys's underpaintings didn't show a lot of shadow, and if yours doesn't have a lot of shadow, you want to really observe like where the shadows are. So you know where that is, and I can help you with. I might go back in the comments and let people know that their shadows aren't very strong. I gave everyone a pass because there's nothing you can do once your burnt sienna's down. There's nothing you can't change the shadows. So okay, now I'm gonna come in with my shadow. And we can start blending a little bit, but again, you're gonna have time. So see how you're just naturally blending. You don't have to mix every value because this just starts blending together. So if your burnt sienna didn't show good clear shadows, just observe from your photo where those are. You probably want to do that anyway, in case your burnt sienna didn't. This really fast. Doing that, I'll put the rest of my shadows in, and I'll do some highlights. Not worrying too much about the structure. I mean, I want to always worry about the structure a little bit, but again, you're gonna have multiple layers above this. What you're worried about today right now is getting the shadows in the right place and getting the colors painted right. I don't want you to come in at this level and just do random. You can take your medium too to help blend. So instead of a little water, that actually works better. I have a tendency to use a lot of water, but the medium doesn't make it like watercolor. Okay, so I've got shadows, and I'm just coming in a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna do highlights. So let's see, there's a highlight here. If my burnt sienna underpainting didn't show highlights very well, if it did, you might have wanted to save them and not paint over them with the mid-tone. That's okay too. It's not like one right way to do all of this. There's just good ways to do it and then ways that maybe don't work so much. But in the end, you can always have a good painting. There are theories that like, oh, there's only one way to paint, but I very much disagree with that. Okay. I'm going to add some midtones into my highlights. Some of my shadow kind of got blocked out. So you can see my colors are getting mixed all together. That's okay. Not looking for perfection just yet. Always wipe away too. Wiping can help blend a little bit. Okay, so I got my highlights where I want them, my shadows. You're probably gonna work a lot slower than I am. I'm working fast so that you guys can see you don't have to spend hours watching this. But also, I'm painting a lot longer. If I was painting on my own, I wouldn't be working this fast. I'd be working fast, but not this fast. But you do have to work a little fast for blending. So if your paint is drying too fast and you can't blend, then I would do like a mark, like I did here, and then blend, and a mark, and then blend, instead of trying to blend them all after you put the mark down. So if you come in and you can't do what I'm doing, like then just do a mark, blend, mark, blend. Okay, that is a really good third layer. So from this layer, I can then develop the structure better and come in and make sure my brush strokes are curved and that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this video and then I'll clean this off, and then I'll add another video. I'm not gonna paint everything in the next video, but I will show you how to make different colors, or like how I would make different values for different colors. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, turn the light on again. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you, I'll show you a couple more values that I would do, or color values. Okay, so the first one, I wanna do this red. So this is a very purpley red. Alizarin crimson is probably a good mid-tone. It's got a little bit of blue in it. It's a little more purple than the alizarin crimson. Okay, so that's a good mid-tone for this, like that. Now we look, well, we can do the highlight. So this highlight is pretty good with the white, but it is going to be just a tad of yellow, not too much, or that's going to turn the color orange. Just a tad, like that. Okay, now we're going to look. So it's a blue violet, a red violet. It's a red violet, and a red violet is a yellow green. So what that means is, wash this off. I'm gonna take a little bit of this, and then I'm gonna add some blue. Oops, probably a little too much blue. Tad bit of yellow, just a tiny bit of yellow because it's a blue-green, just a tiny bit. Add that. Then we'll add the mid-tone back into it. I don't have much mid-tone. There we go. So this is a nice, good shadow color, and it's too liquid. So I don't want to use much color because I'm not going to paint everything. I'm just showing you different values. So this would be the highlight. Okay, so I'm going to wipe this away. Let's see here. Let's do another one. Let's do the rose. The rose is a really hot rose. So it's very cadmium, but it's not that. That's too orange. So we're gonna add a little bit of alizarin. Okay, so we got a good mid-tone red. Now I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna add too much white, just a tiny bit of white. White turns red pink, and we really associate pink with something different than red. I'm going to add more cadmium a little bit. I'm going to make this, so the highlight is very cadmium, and a tad bit of yellow, a little bit more white. Don't want pink though. And the highlight is actually pretty orangey. Okay, so let me look at the painting. Yeah, that's about it. Okay, so that's the highlight. You can always make that a little bit more orange, and then the shadow is more alizarin, because remember alizarin's on the blue side, so, and shadow has blue. Then I'm going to add some green to that. So now I don't really mix my green on the outside. I add a little yellow and a tad bit of blue. So we want to add more green, so blue, but yellow. It's pretty good. It's just not enough paint. I'm using ultramarine. There we go. And that's a pretty good mid-tone, or I mean, sorry, shadow. So we have the highlight, the mid-tone, the shadow. And then they're all mixed together. So you can see, I'll put them on here. So you can see, like, this would be, I don't know if it shows up. This would be the highlight. This would be the mid-tone. And this is the shadow. Okay, it kind of shows up. Okay, I'll do like one other color that's not a red. We did kind of a bluish color and two reds. What would be the next one to do? Let's do yellow. Yellow is kind of difficult. Oh no, the yellow. That one's a complicated one because it has a lot of reflected light. Let's do the green, the lime green that's here and there. Okay, because that's the only green I have. Okay, so the green is super yellow. It's pretty bright green, so I'm going to use phthalo at first. It's even brighter than that. So more yellow. Okay, so that's my mid-tone. Super. Okay, we're gonna add some white to that. Not too much white. Some white. Ooh, it's a little too much white. And then yellow. Lots of yellow. Because the highlight is actually almost yellow. Okay, so that's my highlight. And then we're gonna make the shadow, so that, let's look again. Yellow, green. The shadow is red, violet. So I'm gonna do crimson, tiny bit, because I don't have much pink there. And so this is actually the shadow. And if you need it to get darker, I'd add a little bit of ultramarine blue off to the side. I can do that too. So you can see the shadow there. So again, highlight, mid-tone, shadow. It works almost every time, adding yellow and white to this, and blue and the complementary to this. The hardest part is finding that mid-tone, making sure it's the right color. If it's not the right color, then all of a sudden mixing these is really hard. All right, I hope that helps, just understanding how the color works to make the values. If you have 3 values of color, then you can blend those together in any mixture. All right, see you guys later.